Welcome to this orientation for the Promethean ActivPanel 10 and ActivPanel 10 Premium models. This orientation will also include training for the OPS-A module, which comes with your ActivPanel 10, and also Promethean ActivSuite, a software package that also comes with your Promethean ActivPanel 10. I'm Stuart. I'm the Territory Manager for Promethean in Northern Ireland, and my job is training and support for all staff members, teachers and educators that use Promethean hardware and software within Northern Ireland. The first section of this guide will take you through the Promethean ActivPanel 10 hardware. This includes the panel itself, the remote control, the ActivPen and ActivPen 2 models, and any connected wires and cabling required to get your PC or Surface Pro connected to your panel. So let's get started. Hi, welcome to this orientation for the ActivPanel 10. My name is Stuart Montgomery. I'm the Territory Manager for Promethean in Northern Ireland, and I'm going to take you through this entire video through the ActivPanel 10 hardware features, the software, and a little bit more as well. We're going to get started with our first section, which is the hardware. And first of all, we're going to look at the panel itself. Now, the ActivPanel 10, as you can see behind me, is a flat panel. This is a 75-inch model. You may have a 75-inch, you may have an 86, 65, 55, but regardless of the size, they all look identical in terms of the button layout. So at the front, you're going to see a number of buttons, including a little nub here, and this is a little proximity sensor which we'll come to later on. Now, if you want to turn the panel on, it's simply a case of pressing the power button in the middle of the panel for a couple of seconds to turn it on. Now, I have already turned my panel on previously. When you turn it on in the morning, it will boot up and take a couple of seconds just to boot up. What you can see on the screen at the moment is my PC, my connected PC. You may not see a connected PC if you either haven't plugged it in or haven't turned it on. You may see something called an OPS-A, which we'll look at in a different part of this video. Excuse me. Which looks just like this. But either way, you should see some form of input going into your screen. If you don't see any input and it comes on the screen that it cannot recognize anything, there's no input at all, you simply press the source button, which is on the front of your panel, and choose an appropriate source. If you look along here, it only highlights things that are plugged in and turned on. So the OPS is always on, it slides into the side, and we'll cover that later on. We've got two HDMI ports that are plugged in and turned on, and we also have a USB-C. And that's how I'm connecting my computer. So I would choose my source, tap on the USB-C, and I'd be able to show that on my screen. Now, if you're using a desktop computer, it's very likely you're connected in with an HDMI connection, but you can also do USB-C as well, which we'll cover in just a moment. One other thing to note about the source is if you press the source button, you'll notice you've got a main display at the top and a picture-in-picture. And what this means is I can have two displays on simultaneously. So I'm currently showing my computer screen, but I would also quite like to have a look at the OPS. So rather than having to change my source entirely over to the OPS, I'm going to go to picture-in-picture and choose OPS. And what the panel will then do is it will show me my OPS in the top left hand corner. Not only am I able to see it, but I'm also able to interact with that as well. You know, open up apps, use different things that I would want to use, change apps, go through it, do all the same stuff I would do, but on this portion of the screen. If you press your source button once again, you'll now have an option of being able to switch them. So this option here, which looks like two little windows, allows you to switch them. So it will switch the sources over. So now my computer screen is in the top left hand corner and my OPS is the main thing. And of course I can interact with this, but I can also interact with my computer as well and close things and open up apps and do what I need to do. If I wanted to change the orientation of where they were, if you have a look down where it says picture in picture, you now have an image which looks like layout, and this allows you to change the layout however you want. So I want them side by side. At the same time, I can have two different sources simultaneously. Very, very useful if you ever wanted to have two sources of information from two different inputs, such as a computer and an OPS. And again, if you want to change it and take it away, all you have to do is go back to one of them and choose it. So I've now chosen my OPS, and I'm going to go back to my USB-C because that's my computer, and it'll bring us back to here. That's how to change the source, it's how to access different sources and use them hopefully in a very useful way. I'll now take you through some of the other features and buttons on the front of the panel. It's worth noting that these buttons are also shown on the remote control just here. So the remote control looks just like this, as you can see it. There's a picture on the screen as well. And the buttons are exactly the same on here as they are on the front of your panel. So if I wanted to, for example, have a look at the volume button, I can also use the volume button to move it up and down. I can also do the volume on my remote control. One thing to note about the volume, particularly when using the remote control, is yes, of course, you can move it up and down, but it is not a point and shoot remote. It's an infrared remote. So if I'm pointing, as you can probably see, away from my panel, and yet it's still doing the volume up and down. That's the same for any button on here. If I wanted to freeze the screen, which is just on here with the wee snowflake, I freeze the screen. On the top right hand corner, I've now got a little snowflake, and my snowflake is lit up here, lit blue. Now I've frozen the screen. Now I appreciate you can just about see my PC, but if I come over here and I open up, say, Spotify or a different app, as you'll see on here, you'll see that that is opened up here on my computer, and they're now not the same. So I can go ahead and do some work on my computer with the students unaware and they can't see it. So either answering an email or finding information I need to before I want to show it to them. If I unfreeze it, you'll see it now goes back to what the computer shows. In this case, I had Spotify open just like that. We've also got a no touch option, which is just a little hand with a finger with a wee dot here, and it's also on the front here. This turns off the touch for your panel. It can be very useful for whenever you've pupils near the panel and you don't want them to interact with the content on it. I can grab all I want here and nothing will happen. It's as if the touch is turned off. You can even turn both of these things on simultaneously. I've got the no touch on and I've frozen it just for good measure if I want to, so you can have them on, as I say, simultaneously. Another option on here you've got, and it's actually on the front, is your source button, and we mentioned that a wee moment ago, but the source button there you can open up here or you can open up on here. The last one of note is the settings button, and the settings button on your remote opens up your settings like this. Now there's lots of settings to have a look at. You've got brightness here, and you can turn the brightness up of your screen if you want to and bring that down or up. I'm going to move it up just a wee bit so it's a bit easier to see. You've got contrast, sharpness, you've got automatic brightness, which will change depending on the light within your room. And you can toggle this on or you can toggle it off. So this is saying that the optimum brightness setting is this. I'm going to ignore that and put it slightly higher. High dynamic range, or HDR, is an extremely high quality image you can get, and it's to do with the colors on there, and it's the range of colors. So your blacks are blacker, your whites are whiter, etc. And you can toggle that on or off whatever you like. You've also got blue light reduction. The blue light reduction, what it allows you to do is, if you ever feel, or students are complaining of maybe their eyes are hurting a wee bit, you can dim the colors and the sort of the tones on the screen. It's very, very useful to toggle on and off whenever you need to. Your backlight is the backlight on the panel in terms of the brightness of that display. I set mine to standard. In all honesty, I don't notice a whole lot of difference between the three, but I just tend to set mine to standard anyway. Below that, you've got audio, and that is pretty simple to see, but you've things like your subwoofer there, which you can turn on or off. That's the bass sound. If you've ever shown a film or a particularly dramatic piece of film or movie or clip, and you want to get a real good quality of sound, you can turn the subwoofer on or off. You can also change the preset if you're in a meeting or in a theater. You can decide what suits you best, and you can change the trebles and things like that. The pen is to do with not the regular pens, which we're going to talk about in a wee moment, but the ActivPen 2. The ActivPen 2 comes as standard with all ActivPanel 10 premium models. It doesn't come as standard with with the ActivPanel 10 the standard models. However, it does work with those. So if you wanted to purchase one, I don't know the exact price. I think they're about £50. They're not, they're not hundreds and hundreds of pounds, but you would have to purchase them separately if you have an ActivPanel 10 standard now and you haven't got an ActivPen 2. And don't worry, we will certainly go over those in a wee moment or so. But as I say, the pen refers to when you put it into a charger, because you charge this specific type of pen, and about pressure you can use. You can also change the eraser on there, and do you want to use the end of the pen, do you want to use your palm, things like that as well. So that's all really useful things to know, and a lot of these we set as you're seeing now, they'll already be turned on by default, so you kind of have to go in and turn them off. The input section is really useful. So your default boot source, you can change this. So if you find that you use your USB-C cable and you plug it into your Surface Pro every day, and that's really all you use, I would set my default boot source to one of my USB-Cs, whichever one it's plugged into. And that means when you turn the panel on, as long as your computer's on, it'll go straight to that source. You can also use the last active source, which I find really useful, because it means if I do change my mind a little bit, but I find over a period of a week or so, I'm using the same source, whether it's an OPS or whether it's the computer or whether it's something, an Apple TV, it'll jump to that source automatically first. You can obviously change it, but it does allow you to change it around. Auto source select, if you toggle this on, it will always find a source that is turned on. So if nothing's turned on apart from your computer, it'll jump straight to your computer if you want to as well. Wake on source detection basically means if your panel was in sleep mode, which we'll talk about in just a second, and you turned your computer on, the panel would wake up. So it gives you an option. You will notice, by the way, it times out. It times out automatically after a couple of seconds if you don't tap anything. That's why it keeps jumping off. HDMI and your USB refresh rate, I would ignore. These are probably things more for admins and maybe tech sort of ICT coordinators and technicians to have a look at in the event of something going wrong, or you needing to have a fix something or change something. But I wouldn't be messing about with that if you need to. Your power is to do with your timer. So if you find your panel is turning off or going to sleep very quickly, here you can set your timer. I've set my standby timer and my sleep timer to 1 hour. There's a proximity sensor, which we've turned on, which means if I walk into the room, my thing turns on, and you've got a settings, and you can see here what that proximity sensor will do. Do you want it to illuminate the screen when it detects motion? Do you want a delay on it? You can change these settings to suit you, but certainly have a look at them. When it comes to the system, again, you'll not need to know too much about this in reality. It's just the most useful piece of information here is your serial number, which is on your panel on a sticker, but if you ever need to find it, if you go into your settings, you'll find it just in there as well. So there's mine just there, as you can see. And that is the settings aspect of the ActivPanel 10. Next, we're going to have a look at the ActivPens and the ActivPen 2 models. So the ActivPens you get with the panel look just like this. By the way, you will notice there's a wee like shelf here, which is very useful for setting things on. If you don't want to set them there, you want them out of sight, on each side there is a little pocket for this. Now I know you probably can't see it, but it's sort of hiding here and it slides into the side. There's one on each side for your remote control, so you can set it in there if you want. There's also room for pens, so you've got room for at least 2 or 3 pens, and this is what your pens look like. You'll get about 3 or 4 of these with each panel, whether it's standard or premium. They are plastic, and they're wee, pens. There's no circuitry in these ones. These are just plastic pens. We can snap them in half and have 2 pens, and of course whatever I've plugged into it, in this case I've plugged into my computer, or maybe I'm using my OPS on the panel, I can use my fingers or I can use the pen itself. It'll work on both sides, nice and simple. It's going to be a basic pen, whatever you're doing. And we're going to get into how we could use your PC with the panel, but this is pretty simple and it'll work with the panel, and as I say, ergonomically designed, nice and easy. That's the easy bit. That's the bit most people are very familiar with. Now, what you also get, and I'm just going to move these out of the way, you'll also get this, or more specifically, you'll get a wee box that has an ActivPen 2 in it. And in the ActivPen 2 box, you get 2 things. You get one looks like a massive USB with a big hole in it, and this is actually a holster. So the idea is the pen drops into here, and the pen looks, at first glance, it looks almost identical to the pens I've just shown you, but actually when you have a closer look at it, and I'll bring it nice and close so you can hopefully see what it looks like there, you'll see it looks a bit different. It's got some buttons on it, and it's got a little ring here with some symbols. If I turn it up the right way, you can see these symbols here. Now I'm going to show you these symbols, but these symbols are to do with different features and functions that the pen actually does, or has. You also have a little thing you can lift up here, and I'm going to try and do it with one hand, but it's very tricky. This is a USB-C chargeable pen, so I could charge it with a USB, any USB cable, but you can also charge it, as I say, by popping it straight into here. Now, where this goes is incredibly easy. Down the left-hand side, I think it's on the right-hand side as well, but I'm just checking. No, just on the left-hand side as I'm looking at it, the little USB point simply slides into the side, and you push it in, dead easy. That's it in. Takes seconds. If you want to charge the pen, you simply drop it into the little holster. You'll hear a beep. Okay, there you go, wee beep, and that's saying it's charging. In fact, not just charging, but it's paired. You can see at the bottom left-hand corner, it's charging to 100% charge, and it's pairing, or has paired that pen. And what that means is I could take it out of its holster, and I could use it just as I use the other pens. I could just use it to write things. I could write things on it. I could do different things on it, all nice and simple. What I can also do with it is quite a lot of different things. Now, I'm going to take you through these as I show you how to use the PC, and I'll always note where we're using it, but essentially I'll tell you what they are now and then show you in more detail. On here, and I'm bringing it up nice and close to you again, on here, if we take this option here, this is the Promethean logo, and what this does is it opens up something called Promethean ActivSuite. You may have noticed on my panel, boom, some app just jumped onto the screen. This is called the Promethean ActivSuite, which is again covered later on in this video. And you can open this and close it very quickly no matter where you are in the room. So I could be over here, I could be over here, I could be over here, and I appreciate you can't see where I'm moving to, but it could be quite far away, and open this up. What we can also do, if just above this, we've got two arrows, and this is a clicker that you would have in a PowerPoint. So if you open a PowerPoint up here, and we'll open one on, say, shape and space, and we'll go into our slideshow very quickly, just from the beginning there. If I wanted to move it across, I could do so by clicking the clicker each time, and it moves it forward, 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 back, back, back. I can do it from anywhere in the room. That's incredibly useful. We all know how useful clickers are, but the nice thing about this is I can move around the room, click things, move it forward, and move it back as well. Now, we also, as well, along the top, have a little line with some arrows on it, and this is twistable, so I could twist this to do various things. When you twist it, it sort of turns on. See that green light there? Now, I'm currently on this first symbol, which looks a little bit like a wee lightsaber or sword. It's actually a red dot highlighter. I should say laser pointer, but no one uses that term anymore because it isn't quite a laser. So I'm going to try and come around to you so you can see, but I'm using, there we go there, I'm using this and I'm writing on it. I could stand in front of this and I would still be able to do it through me, if you understand there, because it's not a laser pointer like a regular one would be. It actually interacts with your connected PC. So again, I could highlight things on here and point things out as I'm walking around the room, and the range on this is very, very far. I went back about sort of 10 to 15 feet back, so it will definitely fit a full-size classroom, probably an assembly hall. If I'm being honest with you, you should be able to point things out very, very easily. We will cover the other ones in just a second, but or show you the other ones in just a second, but the second one is a mouse. Again, you just twist the top, and that's on a wee mouse here. And now when I click on this arrow or this little button here, I've now got a mouse. Now, I don't need to click, I just hover. I'm not actually touching anything. I'm not actually using it, and hopefully you can see that. But if I was to click, I can interact with things. I'm going to click on this pen here, and I'm going to click on the highlighter, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to highlight certain words. And I'm not saying that you will use this to write things on it. I fully concede that it might not be the thing you use it for, but it is really useful to come on, just note things where you need to note them and show things where you need to show them without necessarily touching the board. And the last one, as I move it across one more time, looks like a wee pen, and this is pressure sensitive writing. Now, one of the things we'll talk about or show you in a minute when we talk about using our PC is the fact you can write on a PowerPoint, but you can write on anything. And when we're going to change this so it's a pen, so it's a bit easier to see. But with pressure sensitive, it means we can have thick lines and thin lines. So the harder I lean, the thicker the line, the thinner I lean, the thicker line, just like an Apple pen, for example, in that way. And it's an incredible piece of technology. It's really, really useful. It does come as standard with the ActivPanel 10 Premium, like I say. So if you have a Premium, you will have it in the box. If you don't have a Premium and you have a standard and you think, I would quite like that, as I say, it is about 50 quid. It's not mega money, but you don't need it. It's not 100% necessary. The board will work incredibly well without it. I just think it's a really good little bonus to have if you want to use it as well. And you can buy them separately, as I said. And again, if you want any information on that, not that I sell them, I also just do training support, but I can put you in touch with people who do sell them. My details will be at the end of this video. Next, we're going to have a look at how to plug in or connect up our computers, and then move on to talking about how to use our computers in general with the ActivPanel 10. So one of the most important aspects of the panel is making sure you've got a source to show. And as you can see behind me, I've got my computer screen. You hopefully can see it just over there. It's plugged in. Now, you will, through the installation process that is done for you, you will have a computer. It might be a desktop. It might be a Surface Pro plugged into your device. There is no preference as to which one it is. It will work exactly the same with a desktop PC, a laptop, or a Surface Pro. The operating system that those three devices use is all going to be the same. It might be a Mac, that's unlikely just with C2K and how they work, but generally that is what you'll be using. Now, just a note about connecting up a Surface Pro. So if you're in your classroom and you're looking at something, you have a look at your computer, your desktop, if it indeed is a desktop, behind the desktop, there's a lot of wires. You need quite a few wires to connect up a desktop to either use it, but also to use it with any panel. So you need a power cable to turn it on, a USB for your keyboard, a USB for your mouse. You need, if you ever want to connect it to a panel, an HDMI cable, and that'll give you your visuals and your sound. You need a touch cable to give you your touch. There's about 6 or 7 cables all in. One of the cables that comes with the ActivPanel 10 and Premium is this cable here, and this is a USB-C cable. So I'm bringing it nice and close to you so you can see what it looks like there, and it looks identical on both ends, which is really helpful. Now, on the ActivPanel 10, there's actually 2 USB-C ports. There's one on the front, just here, and there's one at the side. The one at the front is called USB-C 1 and the one at the side called USB-C 2. I know that because if I go to my source, I'm currently on USB-C 2. USB-C 1 or USB-C is grayed out because nothing's plugged into it. And as I said earlier, only things that are plugged in and turned on will be available to choose as a source. The reason I talk about this quite a lot, and I recommend using this with your Surface Pros, even if you have got a desktop, I would recommend maybe considering this because one, if you're able to put a Surface Pro beside it, it means you can kind of redeploy your desktop somewhere else, maybe closer to your desk or somewhere else, if that's possible at all. And it kind of gives you an admin machine, and your Surface Pro could be your computer, essentially your teaching computer, your people-facing content could all go on there. But from a logistical point of view, it's very easy. So the Surface Pro has one USB-C port, so one of these ends goes into that. No adapters required. The other end goes into one of these USB-C ports on the panel itself, and that is all you need. You don't need any other cables. If you look at my computer here, and I'll bring it up so you can see, I've got one cable and it's doing absolutely everything. It's doing my visuals, it's doing my sound, it's doing my touch, as you saw earlier. It's also charging the device and charging it very quickly. The ActivPanel 10 models charge the devices, the connected devices, almost twice as fast as a regular USB-C cable would when plugged into another panel, or even older Promethean panels. So it's very fast charging. I think it's like 100 watts at the side and about 65 watts at the front of the panel. So it'll charge in lightning quick time, which is great. And that means in the scenario where I'm using my computer quite a lot, which teachers will use, if I'm taking that home to do work and prepare stuff ahead of time, we'll talk about this in the ActivSuite section, what I want to be able to do is just unplug up one cable, take it home, do my work at home, plan what I'm planning, bring it in, plug it in one cable. It's very neat. It's a nice, neat, elegant solution that works. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just use your computer, and as I say, the experience will be identical. I just feel that with the portability of a Surface Pro and the ease of which you could just plug it in, it's not a bad idea to consider it. Maybe not as a your only solution, your only teaching method, but certainly is something to use as well. If you want to use your computer, or you've asked the installers to connect your computer up, it'll be with an HDMI and a touch cable. But like I say, it will be the same. When you do have it all connected up, I'm going to take you through just 2 things really quickly that I think are really useful when it comes to using Panel. We've touched upon one already, and these 2 things are things I get asked about a lot, and in my experience as a teacher, it's what teachers use quite a lot. So I'm going to use my ActivPen 2 here. Doesn't matter if I wasn't using that, I could just as equally use the other pen, but I do want to show this a little bit just as I'm going. And I've set this to the laser pointer, okay? So again, as I said, I could point things out here as I'm standing, and I could, various things. I could also go into my slideshow. I'm going to go into my slideshow. The ActivPanel 10s have pen touch differentiation, and what that means is the panels recognize when I'm using my finger or fingers and when I'm using a pen, any piece of plastic. Basic, doesn't have to be a fancy ActivPen 2, could be other pens, could be any pen at all. And that means if I want to move this forward, I have 2 options. If I'm using an ActivPen, I can just click it forward, which is probably easier if I'm wandering about, but if I'm standing beside the panel, I can just use my finger. We call this the high five rule, okay? So you have a high five, and as long as you're holding a pen, you can do everything you need with the PowerPoint with all this content here. So basically my fingers move it forward, so forward, 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 forward. If I want to go back, I go the other way. So right to left moves it forward, left to right moves it back, just like this. Now, it doesn't matter where I'm touching it or how big a swipe, it's nice and quick and nice and responsive. If I want to write on this and note comments, so I want to illustrate how to find this angle, and you would want to write on that. You wouldn't want to be sitting at your desk. You just pick up the pen, any pen, and you just start writing. You don't need to set a, put a setting on or change a button or flick a switch. You just walk up and start writing. So our mission here is to find this. We know that's 90, we know that's 32. These are going to be added together. 180 is going to be our main total, because that's all three. It's going to be 180. We're going to take whatever that is away, and then we will have our answer. We want to move on. We've done this, maybe we've got our answer, we'll move on to the next one. So again, you could either use this to click it, or we could just swipe. Swipe moves it forward to the next page. You'll notice the writing's gone. It's gone because if I go back here, it's still on that page, and that is very significant. It keeps the content on the page where you've put it. Now I mentioned, so basically if we're talking about our high five rule, we can write on it, we can move it. The other thing is rubbing it out. So you just use your palm and you can rub it out like this. Now you can rub it out all at once, but that's a really quick way of getting rid of that content. So I can come across here, I can write a note. If you ever want to change the color or change it to a highlighter as we had earlier, you tap anywhere on the screen and you get little options down the bottom here, and one of them looks like a wee pen, and that lets you, one, change the color. So I can go to a purple color here, so I've now got this kind of same color here, or I could tap the pen again and go to highlighter, and that'll let me highlight content just like that. Okay, let me put stuff on here, highlight things, all that sort of stuff there. And again, if I move that across, it will stay on just like that. If you want to come out of your slideshow, you can either press escape on your keyboard, or you can tap anywhere on the screen and press the wee X. Because we've used a PowerPoint, as you'll use a lot, and I've annotated it, it asks me, do I want to keep those annotations or do I want to get rid of them? I'm going to keep them just for the purpose of this, but you'll see they're on here and they stay on there. So if I printed this PowerPoint, it would print with those annotations. Don't worry though, if you have a PowerPoint and maybe it's your only copy of the PowerPoint and you've scribbled all over it and you want to keep it, this annotation is movable. It's also deletable as well. You just tap on it twice and you can delete it, and that works with any PowerPoint, full stop. The other one I like to talk about with your PC that people maybe aren't aware of is using a PDF. So PDFs are used constantly by teachers, and what we'd like to be able to do with a PDF is essentially write over the top of it in a similar vein that we just did with PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is already installed on your computers in school. This app I'm about to show you is also installed on your computers in school. There's no need to install it yourself. It's called Microsoft Edge, and it looks just like that there. It's the wee symbol for it. It's very likely you maybe don't use it. You probably use something like Chrome. There's nothing at all wrong with Chrome. It just doesn't do the thing that we're looking for when it comes to PDF. So you could use both, simultaneously. I'm going to open up Edge just here. I've got it in my taskbar, and I'm going to go to a website you've probably never heard of, and that is Twinkle, which of course you have heard of. So we're going to Twinkle here, and we've opened up an Edge, and we're going to open up a PDF, which is fairly basic and fairly simple. When you open up a PDF in Edge, it'll open up in a new tab, as we're about to do just in a wee second. When I hit download, it'll open up in a brand new tab. But it will also, if you look along my toolbars here, a new toolbar will drop down automatically. It only happens in Edge when you open a PDF up. So click on download now, new tab, and this drops down. Tells me I've got 8 pages, which is really, really useful. I can just flick through it. You'll notice if you're ever using Adobe, you can't just touch and scroll through it. You have to use the wee scroll bar at the side with Adobe, which is quite restrictive. So we can touch anywhere. We can stand here and touch it. We can stand over here and touch it. As you can see there, we can zoom in and we can zoom out really easily as well. But we could also print it over here. We could save it. We could search for a term or something, but we want to actually model content on here. So I've got a highlighter, I've got a draw, I've got erase here, I've got a text. So I'm going to go to draw. I'm going to use the drop down menu, choose a color. Now I'm happy with that thickness, and I'm going to write my name up here. I also want to write the date up here. And these are things I'm modeling for my students, and I'm going to tell them, right, in each question, underline the prepositions, underline common nouns, proper nouns, circle instructions, tick your answer. Each question is worth 1 mark. A lot of scaffolding done there. Now, if I move the page, you'll see that writing stays there, and it stays there permanently if I want to. I can get rid of the writing by using the wee rubber. Unfortunately, I can't get rid of the writing itself, as in the pre-existing writing. Now, you can be a little bit clever with that, because let's say I wanted to get rid of this last question. In the past, we'd have to guillotine the bottom of that off. So we're going to go to the highlighter here. No, we're not. We're going to go to draw, and we're going to change the color to whatever color the page is. In this case, that is white. And now we can write, or I suppose draw over the top of this, or paint over the top of it, just like that. I'm going to add a new question. So we've got a T for text, and we can write a question in here, as well as what time. I'm not spelling that correctly. Write your question. You can write the actual answer into here with your pen, or you can type it in with your keyboard. Doesn't really matter. We can change the color, we can change the size, we can move it around, and we do it with our finger, or we can do it with the pen, either or. I could even, this is probably not massively legal, pretend I made this and not, oh crumbs, and not Twinkle, and just rubbing this out here, just like that. There, you get the idea. That's how you could use that. Works in any PowerPoint full stop. We'll go back up to the top here, and we'll talk about the highlighter. So we'll highlight some words here. We can just scroll down and highlight loads of paragraphs, or we can highlight a few things here and here, and it will stay on there, as you can see. All really clear, all really simple. Works in any PowerPoint full stop. That's a PowerPoint that I found. If you have a PowerPoint on your desktop you want to open up, you tap and hold. And don't go to open with Adobe, because that's going to open with Adobe and it's pretty restrictive. Go to open with and choose Microsoft Edge. Opens in a new tab, exactly the same tools as I had before. Got my draw, got my erase, that sort of thing. And because the panel's pen touch differentiation, I could, write with one hand and move with the other. So I'm using my finger to move, and I'm using this to write on it as well. The reason this works so well on the Promethean panel is the panel uses the features of your computer and enhances them for the use of things like this. So it's very unique and incredibly useful for teachers in general. The next section of this guide focuses on Promethean ActivSuite. Promethean ActivSuite is a software package from Promethean that includes several Promethean apps. These apps can be used directly on the PC you install Promethean ActivSuite on, and this allows you to connect your computer permanently, such as a desktop computer, or temporarily with a Surface Pro or a portable device, but it allows you to both showcase content to your students and also to take your device away and prepare things ahead of time. Or, if you would like, install on a number of computers, including a desktop computer connected to a panel and a PC, laptop or mobile device, where you can prepare things away from your panel and then send it to the computer and be able to show it. It takes the hassle out of sending content to a panel and puts the focus directly on your PC or Surface Pro. By now, you should have received an email from your IT coordinator or IT admin informing you that you have been entered into the team for your school for the website one.prometheanworld.com. This should allow you access to the one.prometheanworld.com website, access to sign in. Your email should have also included a temporary password along with your C2K email. From there, you will be able to download the software, and it will also include instructions to do so. If you've not received this email, please contact me on stuart.montgomery@prometheanworld.com or by phone on 07516 435 993, and I can assure that you get all of the relevant documentation, or I can guide you through the installation process myself. My full contact details will be at the end of this video, so please take this chance to pause the video, go to those contact details if required, and contact me by the most convenient means necessary. Once you've installed Promethean ActivSuite on your chosen device or devices, you're then ready to get started with the next section of this guide. Once you've installed Promethean ActivSuite, you may notice a new logo which looks like this on your desktop. Now, bearing in mind I am using a Mac at the moment, the procedure and the view will be very similar on a Windows PC. The icon will look exactly the same. It may be in your programs, but this is the Promethean ActivSuite logo, and it will sit on your desktop. So even if it's plugged into a panel, a Promethean panel of any type, it's still sitting on your desktop, and there's a number of benefits to that I'm going to take you through. The main one, however, is if I take my computer away, if it is a Surface Pro, and I disconnect it from my panel and take it home, maybe to do some work or plan something, I have access to all my same apps. In order to open it up, click on the Promethean ActivSuite, and it will open up along the bottom just like this. You will see your name or whatever your display name you chose just in here. You can access the dashboard and an account if you want to change your name or change any elements of this, and of course you can sign out as well. The first time you open ActivSuite up in the morning, it will ask you to sign in, and it takes 2 seconds, and that's it. And next time you click on this in the mornings, it will open up each time. The first two are pretty simple, and if you have a Promethean active panel of any model, especially a 9 or a 7 or a 6, you may be fairly familiar with them. The first one's called the timer. So if you click on the timer, it will open up on your screen. Now I'm sitting at my computer. I'm using my mouse to move these around. But of course, if I plug these into a computer or a panel, I'd be able to use my touch to move them around. To move them around, I can grab them to make them bigger. If you grab on the corners, like any kind of app here, you'll be able to make them bigger and smaller and navigate them and move them around as well. But what we've got on here is the timer. Now, at the moment, we've got a plus, and we've got a little settings cog. So the settings cog, what it allows us to do is change things. So if I want to make this bigger, and I'm going to make this bigger, I'm making it full screen. This is full screen. And so I've now got a full screen clock. I can change it to digital, to analog. I can change it to seconds. I can change it to hours. I can even change the time zone that it's going to be in. And of course, if I go to styles, I can change the style of how that clock looks. If I press the one beside this looks like a little stopwatch, because that's what it is. It's a stopwatch. And again, under settings here, we can turn centiseconds off and on. We can change ticking on and off. And we can also then go to timers. And timers, we can have a digital timer, an analog timer. We can change it if there's a celebration at the end of our timer, maybe some confetti or maybe fireworks. We could have no celebration at all. We could change the sound at the end. We could have no sound, and of course we can have an end phrase. So we could have congratulations, time's up, pencils down, etc. So you can choreograph and configure this in any way you would like to as well. If you wanted to add a second one on, you press the plus and you'll add a second timer. Now at the moment we're in full screen mode. If we come out of full screen mode, we're going to be able to add plus 1, 2, 3, 4 timers. We can also mix and match these as well. As you can see, I can resize these, I can make them bigger if I want to. One could be bigger than the other. I think it's set over the top of work we're currently doing. That could be work on ActivInspire, that could be work on ExplainEverything, the whiteboard, or just work on websites, PowerPoints, PDFs, things like that. So we could mix and match. So this could be a spinner, or a timer, and we're going to make this one a clock as well. So let's go into here, there's a clock, and this one's going to be a stopwatch. So we have 3 different ones sitting on here at the same time. If we just focus on the timer, actually of course we can make these bigger and smaller, extend and decrease the timer. The little option here allows us to put our own set timers in. So I've got a Friday test and it lasts 10 minutes and 13 seconds every week. So I'm going to set this so I don't have to set that every single Friday. It's ready for me to go just like that. That's the timer. Again, you can close these by pressing the X. You can minimize them to use them later on. They'll work on your computer. You can set them up beforehand so they're ready, or you can just make them ad hoc in the moment. The spinner is the second one I want to talk about, and very similar. It works in the same way. You can grab the top bit to move it around. You can grab the bottom bit to spin it around, things like that. You can add several ones. If you go to a plus, you can add one in as well. One thing I really like about the spinner is I can have whatever I want in here. So it's at the mercy of your own creativity, really. So you spin these, it's going to spin, and it's going to choose an option. Now, if I go into my settings, and I'm going to make it full screen so it's easier for you guys to see, although I could just drag that and make it slightly bigger. I can change the celebration, similar to before. I can have confetti or I can have fireworks. I can add a sound, so at the end I've got a little sound here. I can even change the spin duration from no spin duration at all, so when it spins, I'll turn this off actually. It just gives me a new one each time, or a very quick one. So when I spin, it just gives me that there very quickly. You can also see where it says display selection. If I turn this off and I spin it, it will show me the selection just in the slice here. I turn the confetti off as well, it's a bit distracting. Repeat selection, if I turn this off, that means that it won't repeat anything at all. So once I use 6 times 12, 6 times 12 won't come up again while I have this on the screen. Until I press the X, or I close it off, sorry, and open a new spinner up, these two, 6 times 3, 6 times 12 won't come up again. That's particularly useful if I'm giving out prizes and I don't want pupils to get picked again and again and again. However, if I'm doing sums or I'm picking pupils' names, I probably want that to stay on. You might notice down here, I've got a plus where I can add new spinners, but I've also got a little drop down menu. And what this allows me to do, as you can probably see here, is I can create a list. So I've got a very short list here, but I go to create list, I can make a new list, and on your PC, this is really useful because you can just type it. So you don't have to stand at a panel and do it, you can do it really easily. You click add item and you keep adding these in. If you add A and we add B and you fill these up and you add C, you can keep going and you can add these all in until they're all finished. When they're finished, you press done. The import option allows me to pull down a CSV file. Okay, if I've got a CSV file from my of my class, so what you do is you download a sample file which looks like this, and then my downloads, and then you just copy and paste your kids into that Excel file and just drop it straight in. This will browse your files, and again, you're on your computer, so you don't need to worry about where your documents are, whether it's on shared resources or on your documents. You'll be able to jump it in if you want to, just like that. That is really, really useful. So if I come out of this, I'm going to close this. We've got a spinner here. We could add 2 spinners. There's 2 over here, and we'll say one's going to be my class list, which are my names. So spin these 2 at the same time, and we'll do sums. So there's Matthew. What is 6 times 2? And again, we can move them around, make them bigger. They're really useful to use in conjunction with just normal teaching, and they'll sit on your computer wherever you are, which is highly useful as well. The next section of ActivSuite that we're going to look at is the Annotate feature. The Annotate feature allows you to annotate over the screen you're using. So in this case, I'm using a MacBook. I'd be able to annotate over the top and take pictures of content on my MacBook. If you're using a Windows PC, it will do exactly the same thing, but for a Windows PC. In order to access the Annotate tool, like always, you click on the flame on your tray of apps or on a Windows device in your taskbar, or you can also tap on the flame button on your ActivPanel 10 or on the remote control. If you click on the Annotate option, you will get a toolbar. This toolbar can be moved around using the 6 dots on the left hand side. You can also pin it to the left or right or top or bottom as well if you need to move out of the way from where you're using it. If you click the button to the right of the 6 dots, which looks like a little sun, this allows you to change between light mode and dark mode, which depending on what you're showing on the screen may be more beneficial. Much like the Whiteboard apps or ExplainEverything app, which is also talked about in this video, there's a similar suite of tools in here. We've got a pen, which we can click and drag and to draw on the screen. If you tap on the pen, you have different thicknesses. You also have a pencil, again, similarly, although in this case, this color is pretty useless. It has a dark background, so a lighter color might be a bit more effective. And you got a highlighter as well, as you can see, just like that. Now, if you want to change the color, you can simply click on the color, and you can choose from a range of other colors, as well as choosing a custom color, which, as you can see, you can decide what suits best. It's exactly the same for all of these, and because we're using this on the ActivSuite, once we make this change, if I make this, for example, a nice shade of orange for this pen, this will stay orange the next time I open it. I won't have to do it again and again every single time. If you want to rub content off the screen, you can just use your palm if you're using an ActivPanel 10, or you can use the eraser and rub it out just like this as well. If you want to rub all the content off in one go, perhaps you've covered the entirety of it of your screen and you don't want to rub it all off because it's a bit labor intensive, the button to the right of the rubber is a bin. Tap on this and it will delete all of them. The hide button, which is just here, is a really important one, and what it allows you to do is write content and then temporarily remove it. So for example, I want to have my annotation button open, and actually I want to open up YouTube. So if I want to access YouTube, if I come down here to where YouTube is and try and click on it, okay, something won't let us do that. So we're going to close this just for now. We're going to open up YouTube, and we're going to open the ActivSuite up again just here. So there's Annotate sitting where I want to put it. I'm going to pop it just at the top here so it's not in the way of this video. Now, if I want to click on the play button, I get a problem. And the problem is that it only draws on the screen. It doesn't actually let me interact with the bottom of it. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of that writing. What the hide tool does is it temporarily removes the actual annotation tool, as you can see here, and I can now click on the screen, interact with this, move it forward, change things, for example. So I'm going to pause here, pause just a few seconds before that actually, and I'm going to annotate and ask the kids, like, what is this? What does it do? So now I'm going to click on the eye, and that will show or reveal all my stuff. So I'm going to write some things in Blackworks here. What is this? Any ideas? I think it's this. I think it's this. I think it's this. Different ideas. And I then want to have an answer. I can obviously get rid of this. Or if I wanted to move the video on, I could press the hide button, move the video on to say here, and then reveal. And just be aware that that writing will still come up again, which you can easily remove just like that. So you can move the video on and keep the annotation tool up without having to go back continually and open it. If you find something you really like, so I'm going to circle things here and people doing specific jobs in ancient Egypt, and we're going to label a few things and write a few things down. Now, I'm doing this on my computer. It's infinitely easier to do it on a panel because you can write with the pen, you can write with your finger, as opposed to you're trying to use a trackpad or a mouse. When I want to keep this picture is really good, and the kids have done some great work. To the right of the hide button is the image capture, and when you tap on this, what it does is it taps into whatever image capture function you have on your device. So for example, on a Mac, the image capture looks like this, and on a PC it looks slightly differently, but it does exactly the same thing. I can capture this image by pressing capture. It will take a picture of that. I can now use this image in whatever facet I want. I can copy and paste it. I can add it into my ExplainEverything whiteboard. I could save it. I could delete it. I could do whatever I want with it. It's my image. There's an undo button as well, which goes back about 90 steps, and a redo button. But it's a really useful tool. Work over the top of absolutely anything, whether it be a PDF, a PowerPoint, it'll be a video, you name it, and it'll sit over the top of the content you're already using on your desktop. The last section of this training video is arguably the most important one, and it's about ExplainEverything Whiteboard. To access this whiteboard, you click on the ActivSuite, and it's the ExplainEverything logo with Whiteboard below it. ExplainEverything Whiteboard is a teaching and learning tool that allows you to collate lots of different forms of media and teaching resources into one handy place. It also allows you to write and use it as a whiteboard, to make notes, to write content down, and just generally use it in a day-to-day manner. It is not a replacement for ActivInspire, which is certainly a question that a lot of people have asked, understandably, when they see it on the same ecosystem, on the same PC as ActivInspire. I have ActivInspire here, and ActivInspire is used much more for the creation of unique and quite niche learning activities. You can also keep using ActivInspire. It's not going anywhere at all. It's very, very good. The difference with ActivSuite, and particularly the ExplainEverything Whiteboard, is it is a bit easier to add in things like PDFs, and a little bit easier to add in elements of teaching resources, and potentially a bit more user-friendly. ActivInspire is fantastic, but does require a bit of training in order to get the best out of it. And it's still there. If anyone who's watching this is interested in ActivInspire training, I certainly offer that completely free for any interested staff. Put my contact details at the end of this. If you want to reach out, you can certainly avail of that. Similarly for the ActivSuite and for ExplainEverything Whiteboard, we also offer free training on that, in-person training as well. When you open up Promethean ActivSuite, and specifically the whiteboard, you'll always get this screen here, and it allows you to choose an option. A blank canvas is what you'll probably choose 99% of the time. It's when you want to start a new document, create some new content, and get started straight away. Templates are a collection of templates that are consistently being updated, and obviously this is on your computer, which in itself is online, and so it will be able to download new and exciting templates that you can just click on to use very simply. So if I want to pull one up here, which is about world maps or ice cream coloring patterns or checkers, there's some brilliant stuff in here. There's an all about me one here. You click on it, it will download it and open it up onto your computer just like this. And sometimes it's a frame like this so you can fill in, and we'll talk about how to fill it in, things like that. If you want to go back, press the back button and it'll bring you back to your starter screen there. So we don't want to export this to save it. We want to go to start a new project and have a look at another template. So we'll go down to something different. Let's use human body, maybe something like that. There's the human body. And of course, you've stuff here. Now, just be aware there's a little icon here to pull things. We could pull this out. It will only pull, it says it's locked. What that means is it won't pull up and down. It'll just pull side to side. So I can talk about different things here. Again, they will allow you to move it around wherever you want. So a really useful little activity that's pre-made for you. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these on this app, but there's also much more than that online. Just have a note down here, something we'll talk about when we're going through this, but it says page 1 of 6. And what that means is that there's different slides on here. So you have different things for different reasons. In this case, I think it's different types of children depending on where you're teaching, but it might be different content you're using in terms of different pages you want to access and a continuation of those activities. So one of the big differences, or the big similarity, to this in Active Inspire, you can have different slides the way you would in Active Inspire, which is very useful. So we'll go back. We're not going to save this. We're going to start a new project, and we could have a look at File. The File allows you to open up any existing activity. That could be an existing Explain Everything activity, or it could, so you could save your work and come back to it on a different day, or it could just be a document. So I've got here a picture of a panel. Okay, so it's an ActivPanel one here, and I want to put this picture into a new document. This is my starting point in this document. I want to start with this. So if I go to open with this, it will open a brand new document, and that is the first thing that I will see, and it will be this picture I've just dropped in. So my document starts here. I can use it, I can move it around, I can start from there. I don't think it's overly likely you're going to start off with an image, or even maybe a PowerPoint or a PDF or a video, maybe. I think you're much more likely to start off here at a blank canvas. You'll probably use File to open existing Explain Everything whiteboards. So we'll go to blank canvas. And when you click blank canvas, it brings you here. So we're on blank canvas, and the first thing I want to point out to you is just down the left hand side. We've got a little toolbar, and we'll go over what all these things do, but the first thing I'd note about the toolbar is these 6 dots. If we grab these, we can move them around, and that's very, very useful because maybe I've got a very large panel in front of my room and I want to write some sentences here, so I don't want to have to keep moving back and forth across my panel to choose between different colors or different tools. I don't have to do that. I move it across where I want to move it. If I move it over here because I'm left or right handed, that's easier. I can move it back, and I can move it around as well. We're not going to go down, just up and down. It doesn't work like that way. First, we're going to talk about the one that's on by default, which is the hand. Now, as you can see from the screen, this is called the hand tool. What the hand tool does is it grabs icons and images and pretty much anything on the screen. If there's nothing on the screen and I tap and use my finger, or I use my trackpad or my mouse, click and drag, I get this big purple square. And what this does is it grabs content. So if I was to draw a little squiggle, and let's go to our pen to do that. So we'll go to our draw tool or pen. We've got a pen, we've got a pencil, we've got a highlighter. They all work in exactly the same way with each one. There's a pencil, there's a highlighter, there's a pen. You've got a little thickness here, and you can choose the thickness. You've got some colors here as well, and you can draw something just here. So I've drawn a nice squiggle there. If I wanted to do similar with a pen, again, I've got pen thickness. You can change the type of pencil, if you are using pencil, different darknesses, and similar for color as well, and highlighter. But we'll just stick with the pen for now. We're going to go to our hand tool. We can click and we can drag this. We can move it around. Now, if I click, I can also change the size of it by grabbing these sizing handles. On a panel, I can use pinch and zoom. I'm using the pinch and zoom on my, like a pinch to make it enlarge or decrease and increase in size. I'm using this essentially on my trackpad, which you can do in a Surface Pro, and you can do that on a panel directly as well if you've got that touch capability. So I can move it around, I can shrink it, make it bigger and smaller, and I've also, whenever I grab something, grab anything, I've got the same icons along the top, no matter what it is. It could be an image, it could be a shape, it could be a drawing or a word or a piece of text. I get the same options. You'll get some other options depending on what you're using, but you'll always get these 4 or 5 here. So the bin will always delete it. If you delete something, just over here, there's an undo and there's a redo button just at the side. Beside that, there's a more option, and that allows me to duplicate things. Maybe I've written a drawing out or written a word out or drawn something out and I want to duplicate it. I can duplicate it straight away, so I've now got 2 of those things just there. If I click here again, I can copy and paste things. I could clear my drawings if I wanted to. I could even link this to a specific thing online or somewhere else. So I'm going to link this to Google. So I know that when I click on this, it's going to go to Google. If I could spell properly, it would help. Just like that. And so now when I come across here, if I click on things, I can open up. So I'm trying to open google.com, press open, it'll open that website up just like that, which is really useful. It means I could link it to something like hit the button. So I come across here, go to link, and go to, now I'm not sure which, what the URL is for hit the button, so I'm going to go top marks. I think it's .co.uk. You would find that out beforehand. So then when I come across here and you click on the little purple link, it says you want to open top marks. Straight in top marks, opens up a new wee tab over the top of what I'm doing, and we can go straight in. There's shape patterns, use that as an example. Straight into there, just like this. And there's the game. I can play the game, I can do what I want, I can press X here, I can then close this. And notice I'm still within the whiteboard. I haven't really left. I haven't needed to leave or go anywhere. I'm still within the whiteboard there. You can click on here. You can click on the link. You can delete the link if you want to and get rid of it like that. If you click and drag, we can also grab more than one thing. So click and drag. There's 2 things I've grabbed, and I can move them around at the same time. I can shrink them down at the same time, make them bigger and smaller using my handles if I want to as well. And of course I can delete them as well. Now, one thing I want to do, let's say I had these on the screen and I want the kids to draw around them or something like that, and I didn't want the kids to move them, so I could lock these in place. So you can do a number of things. You can stop them, they can't rotate. You can lock them vertically so they only move side to side. You can lock them horizontally so they only move up and down. You can lock the size so they can move them around but they can't resize them. And of course you can lock the rotation to a specific size or a specific place within the page. The most commonly used one, however, will be this one, and that's just lock. And what that does, it locks it in place. So when a kid comes up and tries to grab it, as I'm trying to do now, it'll say this object is locked. Do you want to unlock it? It doesn't mean they can't unlock it. It means it's less likely that they're going to move it accidentally, or you're going to do that as well. It's quite likely if you're putting text on pages where you're setting lessons up, you're going to lock it. You'll probably do similar in ActivInspire as well. If you want to unlock it, you tap on the lock and you tap on here, and now it's unlocked. The padlock literally locks itself and unlocks itself, as you can see. If I was to angle this just at a slight angle and I wanted to straighten it up, the wee lightning bolt allows me to flip things horizontally like this or vertically like this. It also allows me to straighten things, straighten it back up to the way it should be. If it's text, this is very useful to do. And then the last one here are these wee sandwiches, and these allow you to change where it is in the page in terms of where it's justified, whether it's in my background, the layer it's on, or even if I can group it together. For me personally, I use the grouping and ungrupping quite a lot. So I want these 2 to be together and stay together. This is locked, so I'm going to unlock this just now. There we go. Oh, wrong one there. There we go. Unlock this. There we go. And I'm going to group them together. So grab up here, I'm going to click here, and I want them to stay together. Because if I click off here, they won't be stayed together, they'll still be separate. I want to group them together, so I click and drag, I press my wee sandwich, and I press group. They're now grouped together. So when I move this across, they're all grouped. I can move them around, I can make them bigger and smaller. I can do lots of different things just like that. And I want to delete them, I can press the bin, just like that. If you've done a lot of writing on the screen, and I'm just scribbling stuff on here, loads of writing of different things, you're writing lots of information, you want to get rid of it very, very quickly. If you're on the hand tool and you tap and hold, if you press clear all drawings, then you can clear all drawings very quickly. If you're just on a blank screen and you tap and hold whilst using the hand, you can also go to edit background. And this is highly useful when you want to change the color of your page, or you want to add a grid or lines or vertical dots or vertical lines or dots. So I'm going to go to a grid here, for example. This is the pattern size, so I can make it smaller, also much bigger. I find these very useful for things like place value and for teaching written addition and subtraction. If you press apply to all slides and then apply to all slides here to confirm it, any other slides you create in this lesson, they will apply to this. You'll get the same grid. You can always remove them, but it would save you time moving forward. I'm not going to apply anything here. I just wanted to show you that that was possible. So I'm going to hit reset, and I'm going to come out to here just like this. We've talked a little bit about the pen tool, the pencil tool, and the highlighter tool as well. If we come down and just below that, we've got the eraser. The eraser is similar, and you've got different thicknesses. Of course, I'm going to choose the most thick one here, and you have different types as well. So this is called Erase Active Drawing, and what this means is if I'm drawing something out and I choose this eraser, it basically removes the drawing I'm currently doing. It wouldn't remove something that I did earlier on, so I'm going to draw some other things here. I'm going to change and purposely pretend I've moved on with my lesson. So when I come across my remove active drawing here, it should remove this, but it won't remove this. I know it doesn't look like I'm rubbing, but I am. I'm trying to rub here, nothing's happening, where it is rubbing out here. It rubs out your most recent drawing only, but nothing else. Again, I know it doesn't look like I'm rubbing, but I am just there. So that's quite useful if you want to, if you do things in the moment a lot and you want to remove just your most recent thing. The second one is erase all drawings, and this one just removes any drawing whatsoever, no matter what it is and how old it is. That's probably the thing you'll use the most. And the third one is this one, and it's erase with images. Basically, that means erase everything. So if I wanted to put an image into here, that's something we can look at. And of course, like I said, if you're on the hand and you tap and hold, go to clear all drawings, you can also remove it that way. We're going to add an image in just to showcase this eraser tool. So in order to do that, we can add it a number of ways. We can go to our plus tool and we can add images this way, and we will be doing that in a moment. But what we can also do is just pull it directly from our computer. So I've got a folder on my computer. I appreciate I'm using the Mac here. I know you won't be using that. And what we're looking for is just any sort of image. There's PDFs on here, there's pictures, there's all sorts of stuff. And we're going to find an image here that we can add in just here. So there's one there we had of one of the Promethean panels, and we can just drag it in just like that. So that works on your PCs as well. If you drag it in, you press done, and it'll add it to your page. Again, you can make that bigger and smaller. You can click on it. You can resize it if you want. You can also spin it around. Again, there's the same options we had before. We can delete. We can use it in a number of different ways. If I was to write things on it, and this is quite a cool thing to show you, I'm going to scribble something on here, and I go to my hand tool. This will automatically stick to it. If I make it bigger and smaller, the writing gets bigger with it as well. If I want to remove that writing, this is where your different types of rubbers will come in. So the one that is with the writing, the drawings one, it will just rub out the writing on here, which is really useful. But I might want to rub out elements of the actual object itself, and that's where this last one comes in. So I could actually rub out part of the image itself. Maybe I just want this screen, maybe get rid of that. And again, I'm using the trackpad. It's far easier on here to use it on a panel, but I've rubbed that out. It does look, I fully admit, it does look like I've just painted over it. I haven't. I'll prove that by going to edit background and changing the color to something different. And you can see it has actually been rubbed out just like that. We're going to undo, 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 undo as well. So it's really useful, and it means that also works with any image. No matter where I get that image from on the internet or where I get it from on my computer, I will be able to rub it out. I will be able to use it in a number of different ways. It can be really helpful if you're pulling an image from the internet or somewhere else and you just don't like the top bit. Well, you can just quickly rub that out, which is very, very useful. So we're going to delete this and we're going to move on. The bucket fill or the fill tool is simple and it allows you to change things. So of course we can change to fill colors in like our background, but we could fill in something like a shape. So we could have different shapes, different varieties, and we can go to our fill tool and fill in, just like Microsoft Paint style, elements of this here shape that we've got on the screen as well. So click on here. We can move it around, make it smaller, we can delete it, all that sort of thing as well. We're going to go down to shapes. Shapes have been asked for quite a long time. They're used quite a lot in ActivInspire, but if you've used the Promethean Whiteboard on the older panels, they don't have shapes, whereas this one does, which is very helpful. So with different colors here, we've also got shape options, which we can click on. If you want to add a shadow to your shape, by default you can. Also, you can set the default border width. I'm going to do about halfway there. This keep adding shapes is an interesting one. I'm going to come back to that in just a second, but we'll ignore it just for now. So click on the shape you want, and it gives you your basic shape. So I'm going to just choose an arrow. I'm going to click and drag. And it's grey, which isn't really what I want, but that's okay. Because after I can either use my fill tool to fill it in, which is an option, or, which might just be easier, click on the actual object itself. And when you click on anything with color, like a shape, you can change elements of that. So it's grey, so I'm going to change that to red. I can change the opacity of it if I want to as well, just like that in terms of the color. You've also got custom colors as well. And if I press the plus, I can have pretty much any color I like. If I press add, it'll add it straight in like that. Now, if I want to change the border width, I click on the black, because it's border. I could change the border width now. I could change the opacity, I could add a different color, and I'm happy enough with that. What you might notice is, say I wanted to add multiple shapes, that when I use, and I'll do another one, I'll do it with a triangle this time. When I add this in, I can't just make a new shape. I have to click on here again and go back to it. So if you want to keep adding shapes, go to shape options, toggle keep adding shapes on, and then you'll be able to make as many of these as you want. So I'm going to make a collection of some triangles here, and of course, like I said, I can change the color of these by clicking on them and very quickly changing them. But let's say I wanted to change more than one at a time. So if you tap on the wee hand, you'll notice it changes to something called add mode. There's a wee plus here, so I can click on this and on this and on, and oh sorry, I can change this and this and this one. So I've used 3. Not only can I move these around or change the size of these if I want to as well, I can also change the color of them really easily by clicking on them just like that. So it's a very quick way of being able to access stuff. If you want to go off add mode, you just click on the hand mode once and it brings you off add mode. We can grab all these, we can delete them, or we can use them any way that we want. The text tool is really important when you're making stuff. I'm on my computer at home here, and obviously if I'm going to set a lesson up, I don't want to write, I don't want to draw things, because it's very difficult to do that without a panel in my room or at home. So I'm going to go to the text. Now I'm going to type out an instruction for my students, which is going to be copy out page 3, something very basic. I could grab all this text, as you'd imagine. I could change the size of the font. I could change the font itself. There's a collection of different fonts on here. Some really nice ones, some really fancy ones, very similar to your likes of your Microsoft stuff. You can also change the color if I want to as well. You can also change the color of the box if you want to. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it all pretty much the same, just the way it is. If you want to, you can put a border around the box, and you can change the font style as well in terms of bold, italics, underline, strike through, subscript, things like that. And then if you've lots of text, you can align that text. You want it to be aligned left, centralized, right, or straight across the middle as well. I'm happy enough with the way it is at the moment. I'm going to shrink this box down, but I then changed my mind, because you know what, I actually want this to be really big and going basically from about here to here on my page. So instead of me having to guess what font size that is, you just use pinch and zoom. Works far better on a panel, and I'm going to try it on my trackpad. It's not great on here, but it does work far better on a panel. There you go, you can see there. You just pinch and zoom on it, and you can make it as big or as small as you want, just like that. So you pop it on there, and it sits there. Now what I could also do, just to show you something, is you can angle, if you're doing certain, text box. Let's say I pinch and zoom and accidentally set the angle of it, so it's just slightly off center. This is where this little lightning bolt comes in, and the straighten option, because it straightens everything up and makes it nice and straight for me to be able to see as well. Okay, so I'm just tinkering about here. We're gonna move around. We're gonna click this here. We're gonna get rid of this. So we're going to press the bin, and we're going to start from scratch a little bit. So let's hold in and go to clear all drawings. And we'll start off as if we're going to make a lesson. Don't worry, I will come to these two here, the cutout and the laser pointer as well. In fact, we'll talk about laser pointer now. Laser pointer is particularly useful if I wanted to talk about certain words, but like my finger blocking kind of doesn't become as relevant when you're on your computer, because you've got your mouse on here and your finger's not doing anything on the screen itself. But when you're teaching and you're pointing at certain words, your finger or arm could block things. Well, the laser pointer allows you, and you have different types here. We're going to use a lightsaber. When you click or tap on the board, you can now have a little pointer. Now where if the laser pointer is here, or the actual lightsaber is here, your finger will be at the bottom of the lightsaber. So it always is slightly above where your finger is placed on the board. And that's really useful if you're trying to point things out. You can turn it off by clicking on it and choosing maybe just a hand or something different if you want to. But it's fully customizable, fully editable. You can use it any way that you like. So again, we'll come back here and we'll clear all drawings, get rid of this piece of text, and we're going to build out a new lesson. If you're wondering what this one does, this one here is your workspace layout. You can customize your tool set here and you can add different features, and by default they're all turned on. That's what you'll probably want, I think. But if you find, you know what, I don't use media, or I don't use shapes, or I don't use the bucket or something like that, you just get rid of them. Just toggle them on, toggle them off if you want to, just like that. It's something that can be really useful. We're going to build out a lesson, but before we do it, we're going to save it. So we're going to do a lesson on James and the Giant Peach. So I want to give it a new name. So click on here. I'm going to call it Peach. Okay, didn't spell it correctly. Peach here, and click away, and that's it, saved now as Peach. If I want to save this as an export it later on, that's what this, because it's the share option. You click on here, you can save it as a document that you could print off, or a PDF. You can save it as an image that again you could use for records of PDF, or much more likely, you can save your project as an ExplainEverything file, which is the file you can open up later on using the file option we saw earlier. It's also something you could transfer between devices if you had the ActivSuite and ExplainEverything Whiteboard installed on here as well. The settings, the little three dots up here, allows you to check up any new updates. It allows you to change settings as well. And there's things you can mess around with, like, do you want objects to snap to things to snap to objects? Do you want to automatically group text? I actually turn this on quite a lot. I think it's quite useful. Do you want to add shadows? Do you want to snap rotation? Do you want to change elements of the drawings? Little things like that you can turn or off, toggle and customize to suit you as well. There's also keyboard shortcuts you can choose if you want to change your language as well. And Video Tips has some pretty good videos that ExplainEverything and Promethean have made to help you along with things. We're going to build out a lesson now, and we'll see where that takes us and the sort of stuff we can make in a classroom setting. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to make a lesson. We're going to make a collection of activities. We're going to collate lots of documents and media together in the one place. And just to reiterate, this could be done before my lesson begins, as I'm doing now, sitting at home on my computer, or it could be done in the moment on the panel itself, using ActivSuite on your computer with it plugged into the panel. But we can kind of do it live. It is flexible enough that allows you to do that. But there are elements of this that I think you'll agree, you'll see that, yeah, I'd probably prefer to do this at home, have it set up. It'll be a big time saver, but you can add it in the moment as well. You don't need to set it up beforehand. So we've made a document. We've called it Peach as an example. We'll use a few different examples of content, but I want to start off and want to essentially create like a learning intention. So we'll type our learning intention out here. I'll be very quick. We'll not dwell too long on the actual details. And like I said before, I want this to be really quite large so I can see it. I want people to be able to see it essentially, so I can pinch and zoom and make that bigger. I could change the color, I could change how it looks and things like that, all the different things you would imagine when it comes to text. Just so we know, if you are using text and you want to edit it, you press edit text and it will open up and change the options up here, where all of a sudden you're now able to do things like bold and change elements of it as well. So I'm going to make this bold, like I said. I'm going to underline it as well. I'm not actually going to write a learning intention here or type one. I'm going to pretend to write one just here, blah blah blah. So a really good learning intention has been written now, and I also do a mind map here and scribble a few things out. There's a mind map. You can probably tell I'm on a trackpad, I'm not on a board, and scribble a few more things down here. So I've filled up my page. I don't want to get rid of that content because I might come back to it later on. So how do I move on without getting rid of this stuff? We'll have two options. One of them we've kind of talked about already. One of them is just on the bottom right hand corner here, and we've got our slides. So just like a PowerPoint or just like an ActivInspire, if I press the plus, I can add a new slide. Now you'll notice it's now gone from 1 to 1 to 2 out of 2. If I press the little up here on my slide sorter, there's my first slide, And there's my second slide. Pretty similar to how PowerPoint or Active Inspire would work. I can delete these if I either press delete on my keyboard or I press edit and highlight the one I want to delete and press the wee bin. I can delete it on here. I can also rearrange them as well. If you press edit, you can move them around by grabbing these little purple sort of arrows here if I want to. So change the order, that can be very useful. And of course, you can change the background on each of these or duplicate them as well, which can be highly useful if you've made a template that you really like and you want to duplicate that across multiple pages in your lesson. We're going to go back to the first page because I want to show you about the other corner, the bottom left hand corner, and this is your zoom tool. Now when you click on here, it changes slightly, and what it allows you to do now, when you click and pan or click and hold, it moves the page. So what this actually is an infinite canvas. I have as much room as I want, or more realistically, I've got as many pages as I want, and each of those pages is an infinite canvas. So it gives me an awful lot of content and room to put content on. So we'll scroll down, we're going to scroll back up if we want to anytime here we like. You can also click on here and it'll bring me back to my home page or my first page each time just by clicking on that twice. So click once, click twice. Okay, it always zooms in a little bit initially. So we're going to start adding things in. So we're going to go to this add button, which we've neglected to talk about so far, and arguably it's the most important one of the lot, because when you go to add, you can kind of add anything at all. The screenshot is going to allow you to take a screenshot of whatever you're looking at. If I go to screenshot, and now because I'm on a Mac, it's going to be slightly different. I'm going to deny it here, but I can take a picture of my entire screen or my whiteboard. So I've got something on the screen. If I had any more tabs opened up, maybe I had Google Chrome opened up or Edge, I could take a screenshot of those pages as well. I'll just use this one for now. That's the wrong one. I'll use my whiteboard here. It won't let me do it as easy because I've denied this Mac thing. That won't happen on a PC. It's something that just allows it by its nature. So it would take a picture of that screen. In this case, it's taking a picture of my whiteboard, which is kind of useless because that's what I'm already looking at. But if I had a Windows app opened up, if I had a different app, it could be a program I've downloaded, it could also be a browser window, it'll take a picture of that as well, just if I ever want to grab content very quickly. So this is the crop window. If we want to crop this, click apply. I've now grab the picture of this here as well. Let's grab a number of different things we want to use as well. So make these bigger and smaller. We can now use this, and we've got the same tools we talked about before. So there's our rub out tools. We could rub this part out. We could rub this part out here if we wanted to as well, and we could use it in lots of different ways. We're going to delete it because we probably don't need to use it right now at the moment. Image or video allows me to add in, you'd imagine, an image or a video. Now obviously we've talked about you can just click and drag them in, but you can also add an image. Here's the one from before, there's one here. Click on here. It always asks you, do you want to crop it? Do you want to change the size? Do you want to rotate it? I don't, so I'm going to click done and I'll add it straight in just like that. You can also add a video in as well. So we're going to click here, image or video, and find a video. So I've got a video on here, just in this bet folder. Sorry, wrong folder there. So there it is there. It's a ActivPanel 10 video. I'll add it in here. Now, the one thing to note here is if I'm adding in a video or video content, it will allow me to add in the video onto my page just here. I can press play. It might be loud. Okay. I'm going to turn the volume off here because I don't want it to be on. So we turn the volume all the way down and mute it and press play. So it's going to play in the background when I'm talking. So I move this in across. I could change the size and move it around here. Now what's cool about this is if I'm showing you something, it's this little panel here, I can change the size of this by pinching and zooming, which is really good. I can also use the size and handles as well, just like this. I can move it around. If I was to write on top of something, let's say I use my green to label this and write on this and scribble on this and move it around, and I go to my hand tool, this will all stick to it as well. I can rub that content out as well if I want to. I go into undo, use my rubber, lots of different ways of doing it if I want to as well. If I press play, I'll continue obviously back to where it was. I can also delete it as well. So click on it, I can press delete, I can lock it in place, I can do all the same things that we talked about before. We'll come to using the video in a wee moment within our lesson, but it's to show you that as well. Click on a file, we can add a file in from pretty much any source the teachers would use. So file would be our desktop or our computer or shared resources if we want, but we're going to go to Google Drive or OneDrive. So go to Google Drive, it will ask you to sign in. I've already signed in just once and now I can access all my Google Drive. So there's my bet folder I'm using, there's a video and picture There's a PDF on James and Janet Peach, which we'll talk about just in a second. I'm going to add in, well, all about me booklet and press select. So I've added in a PDF now, or tried to add a PDF of a booklet directly from Twinkle that was saved on my Google Drive. So I could have saved that on any device. When you add a PDF in, it tells you how many pages there are. In this case, there's 8, and you can see them all there. You can add them in lots of different ways. You can untick ones you don't want to add. Okay, you can go to the bottom here and decide how you want to add them. Do you want to add them as separate slides, add them in a big vertical line, a horizontal line? Do you want to stack them, add them as a grid? I'm only going to go to, say, a handful, say 2 here, and I'm going to add just these 2 here, and I'm going to add them stacked. When you go to import 2 pages, it will put them stacked on your page, and you can use them. If you make them bigger or smaller, you can use it like that, which is quite cool. You can also use your pen, wrong one there, use your pen, and you can start filling them in and writing things on it and scribbling it and colouring it in. If I was to move this, this will stick to that. And again, even if I move the page, all the writing will stick to that as well. You'll also see that the actual the image quality will get better as you make it bigger. So if it looks small or blurry, it will revert to a more appropriate level of quality as you make it bigger or smaller as well. Again, we can grab this, we can delete it, we can get rid of it all just like that. Back to the plus here, we can also add in a file directly from our computer. So we go to File, find a file in our computer, wherever you're putting it. In this case, I'm going to see if there's anything in this folder I want to use. Yeah, there's plenty here. There's another PDF, there's videos, there's all sorts of stuff on here as well. Back to the file, a sticky note. A sticky note looks just like this. It's exactly what it sounds like, and you can type things in here. You can also write things on it as well. So you scribble things on it, it will stick to that. So you can use it like a real sticky note as well. What that allows you to do is give yourself reminders, give it to students so they can see things. You can type them out, so have them preset, so we reminders to help them. You can also change the color of them as well. So when you add a sticky note on, you'll notice you can change the color to any color you like and any opacity as well. Change the font size as well. You can duplicate them, use them in any way that you like. You can add clip art. There's a whole load of clip art on here that's directly from Explain Everything himself. You can search for a specific piece of clip art. There's Maz stuff. There's really good clips in terms of preset and pre-made lesson tools like charts and Maz content as well. There's little doodles you can use. There's individual stuff like faces, and pretty much anything you can imagine is on here. There's tons and tons and tons of stuff that you can use. You want to add it in, you just click on something and it'll add it directly into your page, and you can use it in whatever way you want to. So there's one there. You can click on it, you can move it around, you can do all the things that with any image that we've talked about so far. Web media search. This allows you to go to 2 different sites essentially without leaving the app. One of them is Giphy, so you have to agree to an external search basically, and I'm going to go to Happy. And I would probably use this sort of in, not in the moment, because it's all safe. There's nothing dodgy there, but you know what kids are like and getting them all wound up. But I want to put stuff on here to make it a bit more exciting. So I'm going to put Elmo in here and pop him in there, and he'll sit there and he'll repeat and loop all the time I want it. It can be a really nice way of engaging with students in a way that kind of speaking their language in a way. We all use GIFs now, so do they. Kind of get them a bit more exciting, and it's visual, and it's there's dynamic because there's movement in it as well. And like any picture, you can click on it, you can draw on it, you can delete it as well. You can do lots of different things there as well. The other option in web media search is Unsplash. Unsplash is a collection of royalty-free images. You can search for a type of image if you like, but the images are incredibly high quality, so they're really, really, really useful for you to be able to use. So as you can see here, we can use these, we can write on them, we could rub them out as well, but find hopefully some really good uses for them as well. Audio, if there is any audio on your computer, and there might be, that could be just an MP3 file, but that could be audio that you've downloaded from somewhere. So I've got a random one here, which I believe is a podcast, which no one will be that interested in. But if you add it in here and you press play, you'll be able to add this in. I don't want necessarily to have to listen to myself, but there it is there. That's me talking. I don't want to go into that anymore. But I can jump around here. I can use it. I can show media controls, so I can jump to a specific section. And there's someone talking there. I can move this around and leave it wherever I want. That's really useful. You could use your there's a microphone on your Surface Pro already, and there's a camera. You could record some audio for yourself and drop it in. So if you want to add audio in that you record yourself, you could add that little MP3 file in as a set of instructions for yourself or for your teacher if you're going to be off, and have them sprinkled in amongst your work where you want to put it. But that's very useful as well. Placeholder allows you to put, basically decide what you're going to do. So I want to put a placeholder for a file. I click on here, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to tap and hold and put a file on here. So it could be this little image here. So I know that image is going to go into there, and so whenever it's ready, it's going to sit into that little space here. It allows you to organize how you want to set your document, your workspace out before you do it. Okay, so we've kind of had a bit of a pause there. We've started a lesson, then we've shown you the add button. So we'll use the add button here, and we'll go into file, and we'll add in something from our file here, and we'll go back down to downloads, back into this folder, and we'll see if there is anything on. Plenty of James and Jab, Peach and things like that. There is actually plenty of things here that we could actually use as well. I'm going to add in this little PDF just here. Click OK, open, add it in. Don't want them, going to deselect all these. I just want this page and this page, just the first two. I don't want them as separate slides. I want them as a grid. And we'll pop them into here. Look a bit small, a bit hard to see. So if I click on this, I can make it a bit bigger. You'll be able to see it's much easier for you to see once it loads in. Again, if I highlight this, or I was to draw something on it, and I move that, this will stay on it as well. So the actual content will get bigger and smaller and move with me as well. So then I move on by using my little zoom to the next part of my lesson. I could also change the slide as well. And we're going to add in an image or a file from somewhere else. It could also equally be a video. We'll go into Google Drive this time because I think there might be some more stuff in here that we're going to have a look at. Let's have a look. Yeah, so we've got something on Key Stage 3, properties of a solid, liquid and gas, and I fully appreciate that's not what this topic is, but we're going to use it as an example. So I found a video online or in my Google Drive that I've saved earlier, and we're going to open it up in here and we've dropped it straight in. Now, this video is going to sit on here like the video you saw earlier. If I press play, it's going to press play. If you press Show Media Controls, we can turn it down. Let's turn it up a tiny bit. We can go to the area we want to go to. Say go to about here. So this is solids. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to mark. I would probably do this in the moment with my students. So I would say to them, this is a solid. We're watching the video. We click solid and we circle these and show how close they are together, etc. And there's no gaps. If I move this around or make this bigger, this changes the size with me. I don't need to do anything. It moves with it essentially. If I rub that out or I get rid of these, I can do that. You can either click on these separately to move them off or delete them entirely, or you can just press the bin and delete them like that. Oh, wrong one there. Click on here, press the bin and delete them like that there. If you press play, it'll obviously continue. Really flexible, really easy to add videos without much fuss at all, and it works on the panel directly as well. We'll go to plus here and we're going to add in another file. We've already added a PDF and I showed you how to add that in. We've added a video in as well. We can also add images and things like that. One of the things to note is, if I wanted to add in a picture, it works in pretty much the same way, but it may just be easier to grab something and just drop it straight in with a click and drag if you're doing it at home. So here's a PDF on what is ActivSuite, which we're talking about today. And there's two slides here, but we're going to put it on as a grid. So we're going to go to import two pages in here. And there's a grid here, and we can talk about ActivSuite. We can talk about how to get it. We can make it bigger, we can make it smaller, and we can put the content just on here. We can zoom on. So if we click here just once, you'll be able to see all of our page that we've got so far. If we click again, it brings us to our first page and we can scroll through this. So what this allows us to do is, if I want to jump into a specific part, I can do that. I can find, I want to go down here, for example. So I'm going to scroll down here and zoom in and find where I want to put it. I'm kind of done with this now. I want to move on. I've added videos, I've added PDF, I've added images, I've been able to write things on it, I've been able to add links to websites, all really useful. And if I was making a lesson, all my content's sitting there, ready for me to access straight away without leaving the app whatsoever. So I want to save this. So I go to my share option, I go to project, or save your project as a file, and it's already called Peach, and it's going to save it onto my computer, and I'll be able to access that on any ActivSuite. Any program of ActivSuite that's going to be on a computer there, which is quite useful. That's us for now. Okay, that's the end of this video. After I finish, there's going to be a wee screen with my contact details. Oh, you can see there, sorry, before I finish, there's where I'd save it. I'm going to save it to my desktop, just here, just like that. And I suppose I'll finish off by coming out of here I'm going to, you could, when you leave, it will prompt you, do you want to export it? In other words, do you want to save it? We've just done that, so we don't need to do that. So we're going to go start a new project. If we go to file, we'll be able to open that existing one here. There it is there. You click open and I can save that there. Alternatively, if you're in a position where you're going, well, hold on, I don't have a Surface Pro, so I can't take that home and back and forth. I've got a desktop in my room. That's fine. You can install ActivSuite onto your desktop and install it on your Surface Pro or on a laptop at home. And if you have your file here that you've done at home, you could save it to Google Drive and you can add it in Google Drive that way. Download it onto your computer in Google Drive, or just use a USB if you wanted to as well. There's that same document that we've just opened there. That is us. I'll minimize this. That's us for now. That's the ActivSuite specifically. That's the whiteboard. I think it's a really good tool to be able to use. As I said just earlier, when this finishes, there'll be my contact details at the end. Please do reach out if you need any training or support. Like I said, this is to be used on the Promethean panels, but it doesn't matter what model it is. So it's a really good opportunity that if you have older panels, to give them a bit of a new lease of life, for no cost, to be able to use it as well. And the full version, which will have more features in the future and moving forward, like it will be a better proposition. It will have a lot more useful things, like being able to add in and flip chart files and video links and all sorts of different things. But look, what this is, I think, is very, very good and will cover the needs for a lot of teachers. But do get in touch if you want training or any sort of support, of course, if you have any questions. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now. The final app we're going to look at in ActivSuite is the ScreenShare app. Now this is a slightly different one than the usual apps, and it's different because actually I'd recommend probably not using this ScreenShare app, this specific app or version of the app, as much as I would using a different version that is also available to you. Now you might have noticed when you've been downloading the ActivSuite that you can also download the ScreenShare receiver as well, which is this here. So the ScreenShare app, which looks just like this, when you click on it, if you get an option that says you need to download the actual receiver, you can do that on the same website you downloaded the ActivSuite toolbar, which is the one.Promethean World website. I would probably argue we don't need necessarily to have this. It doesn't hurt. It's certainly not a bad thing. But I think the majority of folks, when they're wanting to mirror, are going to use the ScreenShare app on the OPSA. The OPSA is a backup operating system that comes with your ActivPanel 10, and in reality you'll probably not use for much more than just using the ScreenShare. And it's a really useful addition to have with your panel. It can also be used whenever you're not wanting to connect a computer to it in those odd occasions, and like I say, most teachers would connect a computer to it, so it doesn't become as relevant. But I'd probably use ScreenShare on that. Now in this video there is a section on the OPSA. It's towards the end of this video, and within that section there's also, and it should be chaptered out, you should be able to see the chapters on this. There should be a how to use ScreenShare section. So technically there's two ways, but when you do click on your ActivSuite and you click on ScreenShare, as we've just done, you get this little pop-up. And what this will allow you to do is to connect external devices. Now, the benefit of this is it allows us to connect any device. So any device that uses, well, internet access essentially. It does require a app to do so, and that's one of the reasons why I think that the other version is slightly preferable, because it doesn't require an app. You can connect as long as your device is on the same network, which, for if we take iPads for example, is the case. It also, the other version allows you to connect using Miracast, which again this version doesn't. So I would use this version relatively sparingly, but what you would do is you would open up an app which is called the Promethean app, which is a free download on on all app stores, including the Apple Store and also the Windows or Android one as well. And when you've done that, you're able to enter a code. In this case it's the code AW5514, and then you'd be able to connect your device into this waiting room. Once it's in the waiting room, you would click on your phone and you'd be able to see it on the screen. You'd be able to annotate over the top of it. My My feelings are, as I said, that I don't think people will use this, but I wanted to mention it because it does come up sometimes. I think it can essentially be ignored, and the actual screen share that we will be using is on the OPSA, and I would encourage you to have a look at that section of this video, which, as I say, will come in the OPS section, and it'll be entitled "How to Use Screen Share." The OPSA or OPSA 2 is an Android module that comes with the ActivPanel LX. It also comes with the ActivPanel 10 and 10 Premium. The OPSA module can actually work with any ActivPanel. It's a slide into the side, even going as far back as the ActivPanel 1 and 2, although these aren't technically officially supported. So although you can do it from a warranty perspective, it wouldn't cover them. Still worth it if you've an ActivPanel 1 or 2 and you want to really upgrade what it can do from a software perspective at a pretty minimal cost, to be honest. But the OPSA 2, which is the latest version, comes with all ActivPanel 10s. So the purpose of this video is to showcase how that works. Now, in reality, the OPSA 2 can be looked on as something of a backup operating system. The previous parts of this video have shown you how to use the ActivPanel 10 and how to use your connected computer to a really high level. However, some teachers don't want to do that, and they would rather just use the panel as quite a large iPad, or in this case a large Android tablet, and that is completely fine and very much doable. You do not need to have a connected computer if you don't want to, or you can't, because in some cases like nursery environment, foundation stages, maybe some special educational needs environment or SPIM units, they don't want to have a connected computer hanging off the panel, and they want to just have it as is, and that's what this part of the video is for. There is also something of a backup element to this, because if your computer was to stop working, then you could of course just use this, and you'll find you can do a really similar job to what the computer can do. So this is what your home screen will look like roughly. The only difference is your background will look different. You'll probably have a blue or an orange background. You can change the background. You can see my little touch capacity here. I know you can't see me, but you can hear me, and you can see where I'm touching. If you tap and hold, you'll see you can change the wallpaper if you want to by clicking on here. And what you'll find is if you go into change wallpaper, which is just here, you'd probably be likely to be this one here, this little orange one. In fact, this is how you'll tell if you've got an OPSA 1 or 2. If it's got a blue background, by default it's probably an OPSA 1. If you've got an orange one, you've got an OPSA 2. And this is what we're looking at, is the OPSA 2, because look, it's the newer one here. This gives us a really good opportunity to talk about how to navigate around the panel. So we're currently in our settings app. That's where the wallpaper stuff is. I know we haven't clicked on it directly, but it's brought us to here. And what we'd like to do is kind of get out of here and find a way of doing it, and there's a number of ways of doing that. Along the bottom you have this grey bar. You can see go all the way along the bottom of the screen, including some apps in the middle there, and you've got some icons over here. The first icon, which is this little triangle, will bring you back a step. So it brought me back a previous step from was to this one here. The square, which is on this side here, is your task manager, and so it shows you all of the apps you currently have open. I've only got 2 apps here. They're both settings, but I've got them both open, and if I want to close one of them, I just swipe up and I can close it. If I want to close all of them, I press clear all, and it'll get rid of them all very, very quickly. But let's say I go into an app like my Files app, which is just here. I go into my Files and I want to go home straight away. I want to go home to whatever. I'm going to go documents, into audio, into video there, and I can go back, of course, just here to the next step to bring this way. Or if you were in somewhere like maybe you're on the internet and you've gone a couple of pages deep, you can press the circle button here and that brings you home as well. That is fine and all very well, but people have said to us in the past, teachers said, look, that's fine, but I have to keep coming all the way down to the bottom right hand corner of my screen, and you've got quite a large panel. That's quite annoying. So we came up with this. This is called the compass, and the compass can be moved around just like this. The compass is only available on the OPSA 2. It's not on the OPSA 1, but like I say, all panels are shipped out from pretty much when this video was released with the OPSA 2s as well. Incidentally, if you have an OPSA 1 and you've had it for a while, and you don't want to upgrade your panel, understandable, because it's working fine, and you don't have the funds, you could upgrade from the OPSA 1 to 2, and again the cost is minimal. We're talking between 100 and 200 pounds it's very, very minimal, but that will upgrade essentially your entire board to the newest version of everything without you having to change the entire panel itself. So incidentally, a lot of schools would do that. This is called the compass. So we can move it around, we can drag it about. You can also tap on it and it opens up a collection of various apps. Now, if I tap on this to close it closes it here. But let's say it's on the right hand side of the screen and I, as you can see with my cursor, I'm on this side of the screen. I know you can't see me, but that's quite far away. It's a 75-inch panel I'm using, so I certainly can't reach. That's as far as I can reach with my arm. So I have to move over to get there. If you use 5 fingers and you see my 5 points there and you touch it, what happens is the compass will jump to where you're touching it. So I'm going to move over to here and you see I'm standing over here. Use 5 fingers. Sorry, I opened my menu there. Hold 5 fingers and it'll move towards you. That's really, really useful if I want to use that very quickly. Now, you'll notice you've got a couple of options here. These are all editable and changeable. Sorry, the bottom 3 are editable, but the top 3 aren't. So the top 3 are basically mirrors of the bottom ones on here. If I bring this down to show you what I mean. So you've got although they're in slightly different order, the home screen corresponds to the wee circle there, the circle here. So this is basically the same app. So if I was to click on the home screen, it always brings me back home just there. If I wanted to go back, this is the back button, and this one is the switcher, so I can see all my apps. So that means if I didn't want to have to go down to here, or I was in an application, I'll show you one now, that was full screened, whereas I can't access, this is the Whiteboard app, which we'll come to later on. It's a full screen app. I can't access my stuff. Now I can if I swipe up from the bottom, but that's fiddly and I don't want to have to do it. So instead, I've got my circle here, I can click on this, I can go to the home screen, it brings me back home like that, nice and quickly. You'll also notice that you can add your own apps on here. So I've got the camera on here and 2 pluses. If I tap and hold on one of these, I can change. Now I've got loads of apps on here I've downloaded, but I could pick an app I use all the time. It could be anything. It could be Copilot, it could be a microphone, it could be YouTube, it could be Seds, it could be a calculator. I could use it like that. I can also add in different ones to suit what I want to do. So there's calculator, let's do Chrome, and then let's do Google Drive because we use that all the time. And I can change, and you can change these on the fly whenever you like. But basically, you can have your own apps that you want to use pretty consistently and be consistently available to you wherever you are in the room or in relation to the panel. So that's using the compass. You can turn the compass off if you want. If you don't like it, you can swipe up. So on that note, let's talk about our locker. So our locker is where all your apps are collected. You'll see I've got some apps on here, but these are not all the apps on my panel. I've got apps on here in my little taskbar, but again, these are not all the apps on my panel. If you swipe up anywhere at all, it brings you to your locker. And your locker has all the apps on your panel. So we're going to go to settings, which is in here. I have a separate video on this channel about how to get connected to the Wi-Fi. So if you're not connected, please have a look at that and that'll get you connected to the Wi-Fi. But if I go down here, you've got loads of different options here. You can search for things. I believe that this is in display. If I'm looking for it, see there's compass just there I can see, and I can go to the compass and I can toggle it off there if I want to. I can even toggle the gesture off of the 5 fingers if I want. But if I couldn't find something, you do have a little search bar. This is your search keyboard. You can click on that, and you can also resize it if you use these little sizing handles in the corners to make it easier for you. If you don't want to use anything, you can just turn it off. So you can see some things I've been searching for using this here. Again, we want to come out of this. There's my compass. Click on that. Go to the home screen. We're back home just like that. One of the first things you do when you start using your panel is check for updates. Now I've got the update app right here. It won't be on there by default. You'll have to swipe up and you'll have to find it, and that'll be just in there. You click on it. It will check for updates and you'll be able to update your panel. If you're using the 10, it will actually check to update the OPSA 2, but also you can update your panel's firmware from that as well, which is really useful if you're using an OPSA and an ActivPanel 10, but it will still update the OPSA 2 regardless of what you're using. Now, I'm up to date as you can see, so no worries there. That's why this is grayed out. If these were available, either one, I would press online update, it would connect to the internet and it would update everything just like that. We'll talk about apps and how to get apps connected to here, or how, organized on here, I should say. This is our home screen. We actually have more than this. I can swipe across, although I've got some apps on here as well, as you can see, and widgets and different things like that. And what I want to do is I want to start customizing my home screen to work for me. I want the apps I'm going to use all the time. I've already started doing that, as you can see, but if I wanted to add something, I just swipe up and I'm going to take, say, let's use that calculator. So there's the calculator there. You tap and hold And when you tap and hold, the app gets slightly bigger. I'll click off it there, and you see I've dragged it straight onto my home screen. I'm going to remove it here to show you again a little bit slower. So tap and hold, it gets slightly bigger, and when it does that, you can move it around. And once you move it around, it will automatically, as you saw earlier, jump to your home screen, and you could put it anywhere you want. I can go over to this page, I can go to a new page if I wanted to. I can bring it over here and just keep holding it, and you put it wherever you like. I'm going to pop it just there. Okay, so there's my calculator. Now, of course, I can open that calculator and I can use it for a variety of different things. It's just a calculator. I'm going to go back to my home screen, and I've changed my mind. I don't want the calculator anymore. I want to take it off my home screen. I don't need it anymore. So again, you tap and hold, and you can move it around. I notice up here, as we did earlier, you've got a remove option, and when you go to that, it doesn't delete it. If I go back up here, you'll see my calculator is still there. Just here, it just removes the shortcut to it. If you've downloaded an app, and I have some I've downloaded here before, so I'm going to swipe across here, and I've downloaded, say, Microsoft Outlook, and I want to uninstall that. If you tap and hold on here and you drag it, you will get the option to remove the shortcut, but you also get the option to uninstall it. So I'm going to uninstall that, press OK, that's going to be uninstalled. As you can see, if I come back out of here and swipe change screen, it's going to disappear in a wee second. The other thing is if you want to download one. So you could download apps using the Play Store. So you click on the Play Store, it should be on your home screen, but if it's not, you would find it in your locker. Once we're in the Google Play Store, you can download things your heart's content, and it is just Google Play Store, so you'll know better than me, depending on what you teach. That'll change. So for example, Libby's a really good option if you want to have some library books, and usually they're free if you're using the library app in Northern Ireland. So you go to install, and that's it. It installs it. There's Microsoft Edge, there's Kindle, which I think we already have. Well, there's Kindle there, sorry. Let's install that as well. You pick what you want and you install. Of course, you can search for stuff as well using the search option. All really simple. They'll auto update. It's simple as that. Now, when you are, there's the iPlayer, which is on here as well. We can install that. When you are wanting to use this, if you install an app, and you can see iPlayer is installing there as we speak, and it's just finishing off now. But once it installs, when you go back to your home screen, so we press our compass here, we go to the home screen, you'll see it automatically shows you the stuff you've downloaded, or as you can see in the case of Kindle, it's just finishing off installing now. But that's them installed, job done. If I want to delete them, as I said, I tap and hold, I drag up here, I can remove the shortcut, or I can uninstall it completely. It's entirely up to you. If you want to make some groups, you might have noticed here, I've got a little group of Google apps. This is default thing. They automatically appear. So I'm going to make a little group of books. Libby and Kindle are really similar apps. So you want to make a group, you just tap and hold again, and you can move it around. But if you drag it on top of another one, it automatically makes a little folder. And if you click into that folder and you see an edit name, you can change the name. So I'm going to call this books, and press the tick, and that's now books. I've got a little books folder here. Now, obviously, I'd have to sign into these and do that sort of stuff, but I'm not going to go into individual apps. You'll know yourself how they work. What I would say, though, is Libby and Kindle are very, very good if you're a foundation stage or even a Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 teacher, because having the big books on the panel is really, really effective. And if you can get, there's lots of free Kindle books, or loads of free Libby books, and you can flick through them. It is really, really useful. Obviously, the likes of iPlayer and Spotify and stuff are pretty similar in their media content, so we could group them together as well. But you can download them to your heart's content. This here, I wanted to mention, it's called a widget. It's not some people get into too much, but I think it can be really, really useful. So what this is, if I tap and hold, you get the option of going to widgets, and widgets are apps that are kind of already open. So down the left hand side, you're going to see all the apps you have installed that are capable of widgets. Now it depends on what apps you've installed. There are obviously default ones, but you can have a look and see. One of the ones I find very useful is Google Drive. So I'm going to go to Google Drive here, and these are all the types of widgets I've got for Google Drive. So maybe I have a tendency of wanting to access things in my Google Drive, such as here, and where it will suggested files or quick action. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click and drag just like I did with the app, and I can drop it in just here. This is now on my drive. What it's doing is connecting to my drive, and it's scanning it, and it's going to find files I use load. So there's files I use all the time. I can scroll through them as well. So I've got access to my drive without actually having to open it, which is really handy. Now, that's just an example. It could be anything. It's a Google Calendar event thing I've got where I want to look for today's Google Calendar. It could be iPlayer, it could be Spotify, whatever. It's a really useful option to have available to you. But that's how to add apps. That's how to remove apps as well. That's how to make groups. You might have been thinking, that's fine. But what I would like to be able to do, it's not necessarily an app we use a lot of websites. So teachers tend to use apps and they tend to use websites. So if I tap and hold here, you can see I've got wallpaper, style, widgets, home settings, okay? So that's an option. But I would like to be able to add in something from online. So for this, we're going to use Google Chrome. Now on my taskbar, Google Chrome is here, but I could also access it somewhere here maybe. But let's go to Google Chrome, and this is going to be a browser. So I'm going to go and I'm going to use, let's see, we'll go to Google as an option. So we're already at Google. And in fact, we would like to bookmark this, like favorite it. So you favorite it by clicking on the wee star. So we're going to click on this. And we're also going to go to something like Top Marks as well. And we're open Top Marks up, and maybe it's hit the button we want to use. Okay, so really popular app in primary is hit the button. I'd like to, maybe we'll favorite that as well actually. And I would like to access hit the button straight away every day without having to go to here and navigate it. And there's two ways of doing it. This is probably my preferred way. There's another way as well. But once I find the website I want to add, if you go to the top right hand corner, you've got three dots up here. Tap on the three dots, and then about 2/3, 4/5, basically near the bottom, you've got add to home screen. If you click on add to home screen, now this will create a shortcut. You can change the name of it. I'm happy to keep it as is generally, so I could move this out of the way, and I could change this to, just as hit the button. So I don't need that quick fire stuff because I know what hit the button is. I'm going to press add, and I'm going to press add to home screen, and that's it, done. Now what that means is this: if I close this just to prove to you, so I'm going to close this completely. So now close both of these. We've added, and you probably see it here, hit the button as a Google or as a shortcut. So when you click on here, it opens it up just like that. Okay, and that works for any website you're going to use. So if we go back into maths games and maybe we add another game, we do the mental maths train, and we add this daily 10, a really popular one as well people do. I'm not sure it'll be in this list, it might be. Let's just do this one here, multiples and factors. We've added a few things in here that we use, and we've added them to our favorites. Another widget that's very useful, and it might not fit in this page because it can be a bit large, so tap and hold and go to widgets, is if you go to Google Chrome, because that's what we use there, and you'll see you've got Chrome bookmarks. So you can put this into here, and I've got bookmarks. And if you think that's too small, you can resize it. So I've made a little thing here of bookmarks. So if I want to access, hit the button, and I maybe more than one app at the same time, I don't want to find it, I don't want to go looking for it, you can do that very, very quickly. We can add that in. So there's hit the button there, open it up, and it will find that page. This method is the only way of adding in YouTube videos this way. If you try and add a YouTube video as a page, as a shortcut, it doesn't work. It basically defaults to the app which it wants to use, and that's kind of frustrating. So you can add them in this way as YouTube videos and click on them that way, and that will bring you straight to that YouTube video. So you're doing golden time or you're doing a specific video. That's really, really useful. So we're going to come across here. By the by, if you want to get rid of any widgets, let's say I want to get rid of these, it is just a case of clicking and dragging and going to remove. Just like that. It's pretty simple. I can get rid of this here as well if I wanted to. It's entirely up to you. You can get rid of them. And you can re-add them at any point, of course. There are lots of apps on here. Again, we can go to our applications and have a look at all the apps we've downloaded. There is also an app here which has a little white symbol and the red flame, and this is ActivSuite. We've talked about this in the video previously when it comes to using it on the panel, and it is very, very similar. Okay, there's very little difference in there, and I would recommend that you do give that a watch essentially. But I'll mark the changes. So if you click on here, it's going to open up your ActivSuite, and just as before, you can tap on the corners on the sides here and they'll move, so they can follow you around the room. You'll have things like ScreenShare. So we looked at ScreenShare previously. If I want to connect a device, I tap on ScreenShare. I've got I'm using a phone here, but you could use anything, and you'll be able to use any iPad, I should say. You should be able to connect to this. It'll bring a panel ID up, and you'll be able to connect from your phone to the panel itself. And again, it depends on what you're using just on here. So right here. So we've got on there. There should be me on here. There's my phone, and I can connect my phone there just like that. All pretty simple. Just like that. Okay, and you can see what we're doing here just like that. Obviously you could scroll through content, you could write things on it, all pretty simple. You can use it in a lot of different ways. So we'll park that, but that's very useful if you want to connect content. Of course you can connect Surface Pros as well using the Windows and K method as well. We'll go up here. Screen capture is the option of being able to take a screenshot of whatever you're doing. So you click on that, I'll take a screenshot. You can crop it if you want to, if you like, just like that. And of course you can press done, and if you're finished you could save, open it just to look at it. You could save as, so save it somewhere on your panel, or hitting save will save it automatically to a little folder, a predestined folder on your panel. But save as allows you to be specific. So a big thing if you ever are using your panel and you want to send stuff to yourself is use Google Drive, because it's very handy and it all comes on your panel already. So I have Google Drive on here, and you'll find that once you sign in to a C2K account, which is a Google account, when you go to files, you'll automatically have your drive on here. So I have access to my Google Drive. I have access to the documents on my Google Drive if I wanted to open them on my panel, but I also have access to be able to send things to Google Drive. So there's a whole lot of stuff on here. If I want to send to Google Drive and open it up somewhere else, I could do that, which is very, very simple. Back into here then, you've got your spinner and your timer. They are very similar to what have been outlined previously. In fact, they are pretty much identical. The only difference is with this one, I only have 3 sizes available, which you get by tapping the wee magnifying glass, small, medium and large. But apart from that, they are identical. You do pretty much everything the same way. And even when it comes to using the spinner, it is the same thing as before. The only difference here is you change the size. And the second thing would be when you're making a list, you can't copy and paste the lists in, so I find it slightly more time consuming to use, but it's there if you want to use it. You can obviously add things in. You can import CSV files, but most people aren't going to do that, but you can use your timer as well. As I say, if you wanted to get more information on those, have a look at the previous section of this video, because it breaks them down in much more detail, and it's the same app essentially. It's just on the Android. I would mark just one wee thing, which is the whiteboard. The Annotate, incidentally, sorry, is exactly the same, just to point that out. You can move it around. It is identical in all ways. But the last one is the whiteboard, and the whiteboard is pretty similar. In fact, in reality, it's almost exactly the same. There's one feature it has, however, that the current version of PAS, as of the recording of this video, does not have, and it's right here. Now, this feature is coming to PAS on the Windows devices. It's just not there at the moment. So you'll notice that you've got pens here, and the pens have a little like sparkles, what we call it, so sparkle thing there. Now, the reason they're on here is because if I can tap this on and you can turn it off, basically. So by default they'll look like that, but if you tap on this, all of a sudden they'll turn into something else. And what this is this is text to speech. If I write the word apple out, you'll see the word apple is going to appear. I tap on it, turns into the word apple. If I draw a shape out, and it's going to turn shape, it's going to recognize that shape for me just like that. Very, very useful when you're writing content, and I'm really quite excited about this coming to the Windows version because that's the one I use more, but I think it's incredibly useful. Works with pen, works with pencil, works with highlighter as well, but it's very useful. And of course you can toggle it off if you don't want it. A lot of people don't want that, but you can write full sentences as well. You can break that down. The only other option or difference, is this. When you go into your plus, again, looks very similar, and you go into web media, which is present in the other one. This has Clippy, and it has YouTube. Now YouTube is exactly what it sounds like. It's YouTube. You can search for a video on YouTube, and search for something random there. Probably get some Minion stuff on here, I imagine. But if it loads on my Wi-Fi, so there you go. So there's Minion stuff there. It's using Minions there, and I want to pop that in, and it will put the video in here as a link. Now I can change this. I can move it around. I can change the size, but that can be useful. The benefit here is I don't have to go searching for this. I can just press play. It'll play the video. I don't want to press it actually at all because this video will get copyright banned if I play that more than a couple of seconds. So it's on there as well. The other one here, as I showed you, is Clippy, and Clippy is, if I look here, we'll do exactly the same thing. It's animated GIFs, okay? There is a similar one. It's a just different type one that's used. So there's ones there. There's a lovely gif of a dog, and that's really useful to be able to use. So you can move that around, you can use it. It's the same thing as, I think it's Giphy possibly on the Windows one, but it's on here, so it gives you an option. So very little difference there. And that's kind of us, folks, in terms of the OPSA 2, and it sort of brings us to the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Any questions, my details, of course, along with timestamps, will be in the description of this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Thanks for watching this video on the Promethean ActivPanel 10, Promethean ActivSuite, and the Promethean OPSA modules. If you have any further questions or queries, would like any extra training, whether it be on-site or virtual, or just would like to get in touch to discuss Promethean in general, please don't hesitate to get in contact by any of the above methods of communication. You can also go to the website listed above, which is the bit.ly website, and you will find video formatted training videos for all of our hardware and software available in Northern Ireland. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.